Hello there. You can't tell it, but I've got a bit frustrated setting up for this recording. What I've been doing with the platform and I've never showed y'all the platform. I don't propose to now, maybe sometime. But what I've been doing with the platform worked fine until tonight, and tonight it didn't want to work, so I had to fiddle with it. Let me see, what were these words again? Thoroughly amateur. And yet I have 86 subscribers, so apparently 86 people will at least tolerate thoroughly amateur. Which brings me to, if you like the video, go ahead and click the like button. If you like the channel, please subscribe. Like it or hate it, want other people to laugh at it, what have you, please go ahead and share the video. Which tonight is a Sippin' and Talkin' video. I believe it was about 2 weeks ago I showed y'all this bottle. Now I say that, it was I believe about 2 weeks ago as I'm recording. I don't know when which video will appear on YouTube. I record them, I get them in the can, then I randomize them and pick the one that comes up first at random. And so sometimes a video will sit in the can for months. But I showed this to you as I'm recording this a couple of weeks ago, and I planned that in that video to empty it. It didn't happen that way. Tonight, if I can't finish this bottle in one glass, I'm going to finish it in more than one. I may have to slightly overfill it. A glass. Specifically a Glencairn glass. I've done my really bad imitation Scottish accent before, so I'm not ashamed to do it again. This is probably absolutely different from what an actual Scot would say, but Glencairn. And I don't know why I'm bothering to do that. I'm just going to dump it all in. And that came out to just about exactly where I like to pour it, which is the widest part of the glass. And they designed the Glencairn to be that way, or designed it. It was originally designed for evaluating Scottish whiskey, but it has proved so good that I believe most whiskey drinkers who evaluate and appreciate the whiskey use a Glencairn, and it's inspired all sorts of other glasses. The Norland glass, the Neat glass. Randy Sullivan of Bourbon Real Talk has designed his own, and I ordered a couple, and based on his description, I was expecting great things. For me, the Glencairn works better. A lot of others apparently find that for them, the Randy or the Bourbon Real Talk whiskey tasting glass works better. If you're not exactly thrilled with the Glencairn, by all means go to, I believe the website is bourbonrealtalk.com, but you can go to his channel, check the description of any of his videos, it should be there. And, you know, if it works for you, great. But I like the Glencairn. So what do we have here? A bottle kill. I never heard that term till I started drinking whiskey back in September of 2021. I keep adjusting things. I may get something to work really right, and the shock will give me a heart attack. But I never heard that term till I started drinking whiskey. Then what I learned, and I can't begin to tell you when or where I learned it, but it was years and years ago. Dead soldier. It seems to me that somewhere, sometime, I read a description of a place full of empty wine bottles as being full of dead soldiers. But I could be totally wrong on that. It could be a false memory. Your memory will play tricks on you. And if I really did read that, I don't know where I read it. I don't know when I read it. Don't know who wrote it. Excuse me, tickle in the throat. But sometimes there's kind of a ritual about finishing off a bottle. Now, with Knob Creek 12, it's not going to be so much unless you're brand new to whiskey or this is the first 12 you've had. But as a general rule, you know, if it's, say, Old Granddad 114, that's a common bottle. It's good bourbon. It's not spectacularly good. It's not anything people would kill for. Oh, this smells good. It's Knob Creek 9 plus. But, you know, so somebody finishes an OGD 114 bottle, he's not going to make a production out of it. I wouldn't be making a production out of this except I have this subject I want to talk about. And I am, however, slapdash doing so. It's warm. There's caramel. A little hint of fruitiness. Vanilla, definitely some vanilla in it. It took me a second to recognize it, but that's what it is. There might be a hint of butterscotch in there, and I don't often get butterscotch. But suppose that I had somehow managed to get me a bottle of Knob Creek 21 year. I will never see that, and if I do see it, I won't be able to afford it. This bottle, the price is mostly rubbed off 57 something, and that is just about at the upper limit of my usual budget. Every once in a while, I'm able to go higher, but not too often. Well, suppose I did get that Knob Creek 21 for $200 or whatever the price is, I don't know. If I had that, I would make a production out of having it, out of opening it, out of finishing it, because that would be a one-time thing for me. There are people with more money than I've got, who will never have a bottle of Knob Creek 21. It's that rare and that expensive. This is one of them whiskeys I could just keep on a nosing all night and not even take a sip of. It smells so good. What are some other bottles that I would get excited about or sad about when I finished them? Well, if I ever was to get me another bottle of Balcones Texas Pot Still Bourbon, that would be a sad one to finish because they don't make it anymore. And the one place that was left where I could find it didn't have any Balcones last time I was in there. Total Wine has their one Texas single malt, as they call it, 100% barley whiskey. It has the Brimstone smoked corn whiskey, which is just too much smoke. and it has their lineage barley whiskey, which I enjoy, but my palate has really moved over strongly into bourbon and away from everything else, so I'm hesitant to spend money on something that I may not appreciate anymore. Kelly Liquors has the Balcones Baby Blue Corn Whiskey, which used to be excellent, but the last couple of bottles I've had were subpar, and I'm hesitant about grabbing another. Where I'd find a bottle of that Balcones bourbon is beyond me. This is 100 proof, which is why it's seeming just a little weak isn't the word. A little timid, maybe, I could say. Because I just finished a glass of Old Granddad 114. That's why that one was uppermost in my mind a few minutes ago. And so it has 14 extra proof points carrying a different mash bill. I don't know the mash bills of either, but the Old Granddad is a high rye bourbon mash bill, and as far as I can remember, the Knob Creek has rye in it. It's not a wheated bourbon, but it's a lower rye percentage. What's high rye? The only one I've heard who gives figures on that is K.C. Allen of Beautiful Bourbon, and he figures at 18% and above you get high rye. It's easier for me to figure on 20, so that's what I'd go for. But what a distillery says is high rye is totally up to that distillery. If there's a distillery which has been making bourbon with only 2% rye in it, and then they go to make it with 8% rye, to them that would probably be a high rye mash bill. On the other hand, if a distillery standard bourbon is already 18% rye, then for them high rye might be 25%. High rye is one of those terms that has no legal definition to it. And there is some utility to some of the regulations and laws surrounding whiskey in this country. The Bottled and Bond Act, for instance, put the rectifiers out of business, and they were making whiskey out of water and food coloring, and they'd put pepper juice in there or even acid to give it a bite. They would use tobacco juice for color. To us, rectifying something is to clarify it, to straighten it out. But those rectifiers were not doing that. They were making the god-awfulest rot gut and passing it off as good whiskey. The Bottled and Bond Act in 1897 gave a standard for higher quality whiskey, for genuine pure whiskey, and from that has sprung just about everything that guarantees that when I pour this into the bottle, what I'm getting is whiskey, nothing else. I'm not going to grab the bottle, but here on the label it says it's straight bourbon whiskey. If it's not straight, you can add color and flavor, but for straight whiskey, the only thing you can add is pure water to bring it down to bottling proof. So when I drink this, there's no artificial color, no artificial flavor, no tobacco juice. Now, related to the I got some kind of nuttiness on there, pecans and walnuts mixed. I do not often get a nuttiness from Jim Beam. And by the way, both this and the Old Granddad that I've been talking about earlier are both Jim Beam whiskeys. But I generally only get a nuttiness from George Dickel. Now, a lot of people do get a nutty note, whether on the nose or on the palate or on the finish, from Jim Beam stuff. I almost never do. But on that last sip, wham, it was like I was chewing a mouthful of nuts. And I believe it was walnuts and pecans. Walnuts perhaps predominating. No burst of nuttiness there. It's more slow, but it is there. But as I was saying, when it surprised me, the Dead Soldier, that last glass out of a bottle, and the first glass out of the bottle can have an interesting relationship. They mentioned what it was on a video just 2 or 3 days ago, and I can't remember what. All I remember is it was not Wild Turkey 101, which is what I always want to think it is. But Josh and Aaron of Stuff and Whiskey, one time, just as an experiment, they took the first couple of ounces out of a bottle, put it in a Boston bottle, set it aside. They came down to the end, they took the last 2 ounces from the bottle, put it in a second Boston bottle, put the 2 Boston bottles together, set them aside. Time passed, they forgot even what was in the 2 bottles, much less anything else about it, because they have a whole slew of blind pairs and singles that they do, and they do almost everything blind, which is a very good way of determining, do I like the whiskey for itself, or is there something about the label and the distillery and the history that affects me when I know what I'm drinking? And oftentimes when you do it blind, you'll find that what you thought you liked, you didn't like so much. But anyway, upon a day, those 2 bottles came up in the rotation, or the randomization, I should say. They poured them out, and they were able to tell that they were related. But it never occurred to either Josh or Aaron that they were from the same bottle, because interaction with air in the bottle had made enough of a change that by the time they got down to those last 2 ounces, it was not exactly the same. Now, if you're new to whiskey, people will tell you about the neck pour. They'll say that the first glass out of a bottle is no good. Well, some bottles, yeah, that's true. But I've had bottles where the first glass was the best glass and it was downhill from there. And most whiskey, I find, the first glass is just as good or just as bad as the whole rest of the bottle. It's not markedly different. But there can be change over time, especially the longer the bottle stays open and the slower you drink off of it. So we have ourselves here a dead soldier. He served his master well. I was going to say his country. That's what comes automatically to mind. I am maybe another country heard from, but that's it. This bottle served me well. It's the second 12 year I've had. Delicious bourbon. When I'll have another one, I don't know, and so I am somewhat sad here. But life goes on. Dead soldiers come and go. This one's a-going. So, I'm actually going to finish this, well, shoot. I thought I was going to finish it before 20 minutes. I'm coming up on 21. Cheers, y'all.